David? Here. Fish? Here. Jorgensen? Here. Cole? Here. Parliament? Here. Mayor Heinens? Here. And Mayor, if I'd just remind you to turn on your mic.
There we go. Well, welcome if you didn't hear me. Okay. First of all, in front of us, we have the approval of the agenda as stated. I think most of you have a copy of that.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have approval of minutes from the June 17th briefing meeting and the June 21st regular meeting. We would need to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Claims. We have those as listed. Get to them. I don't know if there's any questions on any of that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the claims as listed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent calendar is nothing. No. Okay. At this point in time, we have public comments. Those persons wanting to address the council that are not on the agenda, we do limit to 5 minutes. No action would be taken. The city reserves the right to public comment to stop after 45 minutes. Is there anyone here that has interest? Chuck?
Chuck Parsons, 600 North Yellowstone. I'm here tonight representing the Brandon Development Foundation to ask for your support on your agenda item D1, the creation of the TIF district. Right now we're currently dealing with a prospect and we're in competition with another state, another location. This is one of the local incentive tools that we can use. If the company decides not to take our proposal, we won't institute this. It won't cost the city any money, but again, it's a good local tool that we use. The company prospect that we're dealing with, it's potentially 25 jobs, very good paying jobs. Again, it's just a good local tool that we use, and I'd remind you that we get very little, if none, help from the state on stuff like this, so we'd appreciate your support.
And Jesse Fonkert, Symmetric Growth Alliance, 610 Partridge Drive, Hartford, South Dakota, also speaking in favor of the potential TIF district for the prospect in the industrial park. As Chuck mentioned, there's not a lot of tools in South Dakota for economic development, and TIF is one of those that can help us incentivize businesses like this prospect to locate here. And while we can't discuss the prospect in detail, I think your community would be very fortunate to be the recipient of their investment in the future. And therefore, I urge you to support the TIF. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Jesse? Anyone else wishing to address the council?
Quick question.
Yes.
Is there anything else that either of you gentlemen can tell us about the potential? I know there's always the confidentiality, obviously. Manufacturing, something else.
This prospect is a little bit more professional than, say, others. There actually is an NDA in place between the prospect and myself and the economic development staff here. We can say that it's a manufacturing business that has a variety of different positions, from the technician side to the engineering side, and so there's a nice spread of jobs that have different skill sets attached to them, if this would be the final site for it.
Right. Do you know how many sites that they're looking at?
I do not.
Okay. All right.
I wish I knew.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Thank you, Jesse.
Do I need to speak now, or do I wait till once on the agenda?
Just wait. If there's anyone else, we'll close the public comments. Public hearing, is there anything there, Brian?
No public hearings tonight.
Okay.
For the first time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while.
I learned that last time we were here. Under old business, second reading of ordinance 633, rezoning tract 1, Brandon Golf Course Edition. Any action that we need to take on that?
Yep, you'll need to approve a second reading. It's the rezoning of the golf course from NRC to institutional.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning of the Golf Course Edition. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports. I don't know if Andrew's here tonight.
Andrew's not here. He's closing on his house today.
Ah, good for him. Well, I know they've been busy, just driving by every day, and I think just the day of our last briefing, he said they had 240 golfers that day, which is quite a group. Parks and Recreation.
Any questions on the park report? If not, we've got a draft memorandum of understanding with the Soccer Association for a indoor soccer facility at the south end of Aspen Park on the property that we purchased from Peterson's a while ago. So it's a boilerplate draft MOU that will be our standard agreement with any associations wanting to come in and build a structure in any of our facilities.
Park Board has a recommendation to go forward with it.
The MOU lays out that the city will provide land and that's it. Any infrastructure, any construction, the association will need to fund those.
I would make a motion to approve the MOU. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the soccer MOU. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Aspen Park Utility Improvement Project, replace existing sewer.
We are currently under contract with Siteworks to extend the water and sewer utilities in Aspen Park to the south. That would help out the Soccer Association and hockey. When we went out there to do a little bit more investigation on where to tie into, it became pretty apparent that our existing sewer is in pretty poor condition. There's a couple different size pipes there, and after we put a camera down it, we've noticed that there's some sags in the line as well. So we asked the contractor what it would take to replace all of it, and that extra piece would be a little over $32,000.
So how far do we have to replace there?
If you look on page 27, it shows that it goes right up to the manhole that's right behind the pool.
Okay.
How old are the existing lines that are different sizes?
Raleigh?
I believe I helped install those almost 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Like she said, part of the problem is too, if we're gonna run a force main up from that south end, they're talking about running a 4 to a 6-inch force main. And if you run a 4 or 6-inch force main, we cannot put it in a 4-inch pipe. And when it comes down by the pool, it's a 4-inch pipe. So it's undersized up there in the first place. Just to the south of that was where the sag was. The camera went underwater for over 60 feet. So the pipe is not working properly. We don't even have access to be able to clean the pipe because it doesn't even tie into that manhole that's there now. It has a Y just like a house would. So there's no way to clean it. So it needs some fine tuning.
Sounds like it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Aspen Park Improvement Project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The Aspen Park Roadway Overlay Proposal. I think Brian shared with us.
Tammy,
Tammy?
give you the rundown.
So I didn't have time to put it in the packet, so we printed it out. I talked to multiple contractors. I talked to all four that do chip seals and fog seals, and I couldn't find anybody that would be able to get it done before the Legion tournament. I asked a few for overlay ideas and only got one to give us a proposal. They say that they can do it either late this week or early next week. That's Seal Pros at just under 43,000. And that would be for a 2-inch overlay. That's not milling and that's not replacing anything underneath. It's really not an asphalt road now. It's just a chip seal over chip seal over chip seal. So, I mean, this would be a temporary fix because we have a lot of construction in that park.
So Tam, you said later this week, would they still be able to get in there yet?
Later this week or early next week.
I know there's a baseball tournament.
Baseball tournament this weekend.
This weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we gotta do something, in my opinion, we gotta do something before this Legion tournament, there's gonna be a lot of traffic in there.
Yeah, I don't,
Having a nice 2-inch overlay,
I think,
it's not ideal, you know, but it's gonna look good, and it's gonna drive well. So, you know, I'm all in favor.
I don't, I mean, there's certain subjects I have heard more and more about lately. This is probably is the one I've heard the most, that we gotta do something about this road into Aspen, and I would agree with Jack.
Tammy, I have a question. I know this is just, like you said, it's just gonna be a nice smooth road, but how long do you think we would be able, I mean, how long life? Will it last a couple of years or no?
Yes, we still have some contractors going in there now, and they will continue for the year because Rushmore area, we're removing the dirt from that project and bringing it into Aspen Park because we're gonna need it for our improvements. And then we're gonna do the water treatment plant, so there's gonna be a lot of contractors in there as well. So we have a lot of heavy equipment that goes into Aspen Park. I think it'll get us by a couple years, but it's probably gonna crack.
I definitely agree with you, Tammy. Especially if, you know, if we do have the heavy trucks in there and they find a spot that gets, they're turning and tearing something up, we get in there and get it patched right away. Those little things like that will extend. I'd say optimistically we might get 3 years out of it.
Yeah.
That's optimistic, but.
I would make a motion to approve.
Yeah, we'll second.
A motion and a second to approve the Aspen Park roadway overlay proposal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well
That's
done.
awesome, I think.
Yeah.
You got this done, if we can get it done for this tournament. Been my pet peeve since I got on here, you know, so.
I think it's great.
I'm happy.
I have to write a welcome to the Legion baseball tournament people. They'll be happy that they can drive safely down our
Yes,
road.
speaking of which, Jim, I don't know, some sort of a proclamation at the opening of that, or I don't know if they're planning on doing an opening ceremony or anything like that, if anybody's heard anything.
They are. They asked me to throw out the first pitch, which my rotator cuff is already hurting.
Well, you need a substitute.
There you
know.
go. I know you can do it. So they are planning, and
That'd be awesome.
they're working on it. Yeah.
Okay. Make sure, I'd love to be there.
Okay. We'll make sure that all the council is invited.
Cool.
We have a request for alcohol consumption in McCarty Park.
This is for the Baba Jeep Club. I do organize this group. The last couple of times we've met, we have used different businesses in town, and we have filled up their parking lots and have been asked to leave before. So I thought we'd try McCarty Park. There are no other activities there, so hopefully we're grilling hot dogs and brats, and a few have asked if they could bring a couple beers.
If you're not too rowdy, you'll be fine.
Right.
People will run you off when you get a little too rowdy, Tim. No, that's good.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the request for alcohol consumption. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public Safety, Mr. Steffel, Chief Steffel.
Real quick update, the 4th of July went well. No major complaints. I was out of town, but from what I understand, there were no real issues. We did start tracking fireworks back in 2018, which was the bad year. We had 31 complaints, a lot of citations, a lot of problems that year. Since then, we had 13 in 2019 complaints, 10 in 2020, and we had 13 again this year. So for the last 3 years, it's been relatively quiet and subdued, so happy to hear that.
Good.
No injuries, no fires?
Not that I'm aware of. There was a dumpster fire, but I don't think it was, I don't know if it was fireworks related. 3? Well, we had 2, but I only found one on the call screen. Was it didn't say in the calls for service, was there fireworks related?
All 3 were fireworks.
Were they from dumping?
Dumpster and 1 grass fire.
Yeah, there you go.
What I mean, 2 dumpster fires and 1 grass fire.
They just threw that extra stuff in there, it was too hot?
Yeah, they were over, both up on the north end up there. I'm not sure where the grass fire was, but
By Yogi Bear.
Yogi Bear, okay. So,
Just a looking garage.
Okay.
yeah, better in a house, but
Exactly.
still not good. Any other questions on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Administration now is the creation of TIF District Number 6.
Dennis Olson, 205 Seth.
Well, there we go, it's red light. I'm Dennis Olson, 205 Seth, with this Brandon Development Foundation. We're here asking for approval of a TIF. I'll be short, it's pretty simple, $300,000 10-year TIF. It's a developer's TIF, which is new since I left, and that means that the Development Foundation is responsible for getting the financing and making all the payments. And it doesn't apply against the city's debt limit. So there's really nothing that you do except forward the money to us. It's our responsibility. I don't push these kind of things for companies that I don't have a lot of faith in. They're a good employer. They'd be an asset to our development park. And I'm sure here to answer any questions. The other thing is if they happen not to come, we won't go through with this TIF. We won't have any revenue or to do anything with anyway. So it will depend on them coming.
How soon are they making some type of a decision?
Oh, they'll have a decision within a couple months.
Okay.
Yep. They plan on building. They won't get it. I doubt they'll get it done by this summer, but they had hoped to, and they may. Things may go quicker than you think they will. But we have a lot of time if they don't come to, because taxes are always a year behind, so there isn't any rush there. Like I say, I think it's a really good fit for our park. I'm happy to have them. And you get good businesses, but then you get some that are a little better, and I think this one is definitely worth consideration.
Brian and I did he took me on a tour out there, and I really hadn't driven around out there. It's pretty amazing what you guys have done. You've done a nice job.
I've always said that the Development Foundation is probably one of the least sung heroes in the city, because they did a lot of work, since I got here in '86, and nobody even knows they exist, but they have. They've really done a good job, and it wasn't because of me. It was because they had the fortitude to make the decisions that needed to be made at the time. And done a
I
good
think
job.
you had something to do with it.
Yeah,
too.
maybe a little. But we'll answer any questions if you have of this situation.
Dennis, how big a parcel are they looking at?
It's about three.
Which one?
Yeah, it's on that plat. It's four. I think it's 4A.
Yeah.
Before this screen, the plat was up there. It's about 3.5 acres, I think. Jack. It's toward the bottom of that block.
Yes, it's block 2, lot 4A.
About 4 acres, it looks like.
And I think it says on there what it is. I don't remember as well as it, but it seems to me like it's about 3.5 acres.
I think it says 4.03.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that's the parcel that they're looking at, yeah. We had to separate that lot because of that drainage that runs through it, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's just the way it turned out.
So Tim sits on the Development Foundation board, and I'm ex officio. And these TIFs are not used very often, so this
Not
is
very
unique.
often, no. This is
So
number
you're very-
6.
You're very careful about using the
Very,
TIFs.
very, yes. Yeah, this is number 6 in how many years? 40, 30 years, yeah. So,
Okay, so Dennis, help me get my bearings here a little bit. I see the existing rail spur around the curve. Is that the one that goes up towards,
Marmon's.
Marmon?
Yep. This land is directly south of the tank company, has the oil tanks out there.
Jump over.
Yeah.
Just directly south, okay?
Yep. That whole block is directly on the south side of their lot line.
Being a rail guy, are they looking at rail service or no?
No, they will not have rail service, no. Our rail services, they serve all that they can serve in the Corson Park right now. We have rail lots on the Roadway side, on the north side, but there's none available on the south side.
Okay. All right.
Did you want to make it, Tim, or I can?
I'll make a motion to approve the TIF.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the TIF. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Dennis. Well done.
I will say that one of the things I've learned over the years is that development foundations in cities can't work without the city council. And ours has worked well because we've had city council support, and you should applaud yourselves for that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
I would say one other thing about our tour out there, and I think, Tammy, you mentioned we were going to fix the railroad tracks over there. I'm not sure if it was the city van or the tracks, but between the two, that was bumpy.
When
The driver was excellent. He kept the wheel steady all the way through that.
When the governor was here a couple of months ago, I wanted to take her out and drive her over that track, but she declined.
You convinced me. So anyway, thank you, Dennis.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Speaking of that, what's the latest? I know I missed the last couple of meetings, maybe I missed something.
They hope to start on the 19th.
19?
Yep,
July.
Right?
of July, yes. And it should be 2 to 3 week project. We are letting everybody know that it's probably going to be 4 weeks.
Yeah. And I think you told me one other time, but how are they phasing it in?
We're going to do half of the street at a time. So it will be open to traffic, but there'll be a stop sign on both sides.
That just flags it.
Right.
Okay. BNSF cooperating?
Yes, they're being very helpful, and they're going to provide flaggers when we do removals.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Moving on. Encore Park Concept Plan.
This is Haig's development on the west side of town, just kind of west of the funeral home over by Heartland Business Park. Wade is here. If you guys want to explain your development.
Paul Haig, Haig Companies, Haig Construction. Yeah, so this is just our initial concept plan that we've put forth. Basically, you've got retail along the Holly Boulevard with the 3 lots that are in the blue. And then we transition from there to multifamily that you see in the yellow. And then on the north side of the tracks, that's all industrial. We do have currently 2 users, the multifamily teed up, as well as about a 20-acre parcel for the industrial that is internal to ourselves. And then we do have 2 third-party, 1 retail potential user in the blue, and then another potential 20-acre industrial user in the light blue to the north of the tracks. So that's, I mean, in a very generic way, what we currently have going. But I'm just here to answer any other questions you may have.
Oh, Brian, I just make sure, 68 in ours, that's the same map, right? The colors are just different? Okay. 68, right? Chris? Okay, just want to make sure, but because the colors look different on my screen, I
Oh,
want to
I'm
make sure
sorry.
I had the right map that I was looking at. Okay.
So a couple of questions that arose this morning in a lengthy conversation that I had with some folks from the Bluffs. They're concerned about traffic, and they're concerned about are you thinking, Paul, that the buildings would be 3 stories, the multifamily housing buildings?
Yeah, the maximum 3 stories.
Okay.
Right.
And any idea how many buildings at this point? I know this is all preliminary, but.
Right now, the density, I think the max density we could do is 300. Is that correct? Yeah, but we haven't quite decided, what we're going to do, and it kind of comes down to economics and, what works in the overall economic, financial situation. We did have a neighborhood meeting a week or so ago in this rooms, actually. We sent out, I think, 250 letters, announcing the meeting. We probably had, I'm going to guess, 25 people attend. And, we heard some of the similar comments as well. And, just, we didn't promise anything other than we promised to try to be transparent and communicate the facts of what we're doing. The reality is that some people may not like those facts. But we want to make sure that we are telling them what's going on, so they know know the facts and not try to create a story in their own head.
Well, and I think having that neighborhood meeting was very beneficial. I think if you just continue to communicate with them, and you're going to be coming back to planning and zoning numerous times, so they will have an opportunity to come at that point.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, like I always like to say, this is a process and not an event, so, and why this is a concept plan at this point.
Transparency is always very good in these.
Right.
Initial development.
Yeah. I mean, there was some,
Obviously, as much as you can.
yeah, I mean, there was some effort to try to, get us to narrow our, make promises and we can't do that yet,
I know better.
so, yeah.
So these front lots, like 8, 9, and 10, that's
Yep.
going to be more the commercial, like,
Retail, office, personal services type of uses.
Okay.
That would be complementary to the, the other uses that are along that Holly Boulevard.
And Paul, do you envision those probably some of the first things that you'll see moving, or?
Well, we're anticipating that, I can't read is it lot 8? Yeah, right, that's the one that we have, I would say a pretty good prospect for, and we're expecting a potential letter of intent on that. And that would be, that could be a first mover, definitely, that we could be, getting going pretty quickly. And lot 8, down in the far left corner there.
2 almost 3 acres?
Yep. And then we'd like to start, moving dirt and start working on lot 7, which is a multifamily, as soon as this fall, if possible. I mean, we've got a pretty tight timeline, and as always, you try to shoot for the best, but you just don't know.
I'm kind of new to this, and Jack will probably answer this too, along with yourself. But with it being so close to railroad tracks, now I thought at P&Z last week they made a comment too that there'd be some kind of like, I don't know if it's trees or some kind of buffer between the railroad tracks and the apartments. Is that true?
Most likely
or no?
garages.
Okay, garages to kind of buff
to
it
try to create that buffer.
and
Yeah,
kind of keep kids away from.
right.
Okay.
Probably a question for staff. Do we anticipate that this is going to affect Holly as far as any further expansion of Holly going out to Lancer?
Yes, so we are doing an NPO study, a corridor study along Rice Holly. Hopefully that starts either this fall or next year. We already know that this roadway gets 10,000 vehicles a day, and we're just continuously adding to it. So after we get through that corridor study, we'll know if it needs to be 2 lanes or 4 lanes and where traffic lights and other traffic patterns are at. So that study's coming. We just haven't started it yet.
Well, I think everyone that drives that road will welcome the day when that gets widened.
A couple other items to point out is we've had some preliminary discussions with the railroad. They seem okay with having the crossing at Lancer and at Heritage. Yep, 2 of them. And then they're planning on a regional BMP on that north end that would also remove 2 smaller ones within the existing development. So that would be a positive for the city.
So that's kind of a little bit of trade-off there.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been working on regional BMPs and regional drainage for a while. We just don't have a lot of them. And right now, I think there's 1 or 2 small private detention ponds, so that BMP would take over for all of those. It's a nice upgrade. That's at Outlot A on the map.
Okay.
And then also just to remind council, there is no sewer out there to this development yet, but we are under contract with DGR engineers, and we're bringing those plans up to 60%. So I would expect when they bring preliminary plans forward that they'll also be signing a petition for that sewer to move forward on that as well.
Who's they?
Hey,
Construction.
Yeah, okay, that's what you're referring to.
Okay.
Besides that sewer main out there and opening up this area, where else does that help? Besides, just our normal flow. But any other potential development areas?
That also opens up Harold's Land, the sand pit mine,
Okay, yep.
that area. And then there's also another lot that Lee Schilling used to own. I don't know if he still does or not, but he has storage unit or storage right there now for boats and campers.
East of Sioux Valley.
Yeah.
Right. It would open that up as well. And then Paul Odie also owns a lot out there that he's putting storage units on. He has a plan and agreement with the city to put in his own lift station. He has not installed that yet. So once we have the sewer out there, then he could connect directly to that and not put in that lift station.
Okay.
Any other questions that anyone has for Paul? Thank you, Paul.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Get turning some dirt.
Definitely. So are we addressing the grant part?
Yeah, we can at the
Yes.
same time. Just a couple, there's a number of steps here for this project yet. One needs to be annexed, and then there's the rezoning. So there'll be 2 public hearings for the citizens to come in and comment at that point in time. There'll be a preliminary plan, and then DEPs that staff will review. So there's a number of steps here. I think I counted it up the other day, at least 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities for citizens to come in and address either council or planning and zoning.
So,
Do we have to do anything now or what?
Nope,
We don't?
nope,
so
concept
what
plan
are
is
those
just.
steps, Brad, real quickly?
First step is annexation. That would first go to planning and zoning for a recommendation, and then it would come to the city council. That would be an annexation by resolution, since it would be owner requested. After that, probably about the same time or in conjunction with the preliminary plan, we'd be looking at zoning on the property, so there'd be rezoning as it comes into the city. Typically, they're zoned NRC. And then we'd be looking at heavy industrial and R3, multiple family, high density multifamily, and then general business. So there's a public hearing in front of planning and zoning first. They make a recommendation to the city council. There'd be a public hearing in front of the city council on that rezoning request, and there'd be 2 readings of that ordinance.
And 2, 4, 5.
Preliminary plan will come in front of both planning and zoning and city council for your action. The DEP's design engineering plans is only reviewed by staff about location of pipes and manholes and typical sections.
What's our timeframe then?
You know, rezones typically take 60 days, you know.
Hopefully by the fall.
Yeah, I think so. You know, as Tammy said, once the preliminary plan is in and then a petition for that sanitary sewer line, we can get DGR working on the final. It all depends on timing, you know, just like the 60 days for the rezone, all depends on when the petition is submitted. And we have to hit publication deadlines and all that good stuff. So 30 days of that is just publications. And then if all goes well and timing works out, we might be able to bid that sanitary sewer project yet this fall. If it works. And build winter.
But planning and zoning is not a slam dunk. They're very
No.
careful about what they recommend to city council. And Tim serves as the chairman of planning and zoning, and so there's no assumptions made here that it's gonna necessarily go right away.
So Tammy said their DGR was moving to 60% plans?
Yep.
What was criteria that we were gonna do? Only 10, 20, 30?
Yeah, we told them to start with the 60%, and then once the petition comes in, then we'll have them do final plans to what we can bid.
60 gets you a long, long way.
It does, yeah, really good process.
Yep. All right, awesome.
Now the grant. Now the grant. Now the grant.
Any other questions for Paul?
Oh, we're gonna go.
Then we're gonna do the grant.
Oh, okay.
It's the same project.
Yeah, this is a transportation economic development grant through the South Dakota Department of Transportation. What they will do is they'll pay for up to $500,000 of the project. The developers would be responsible for the engineering plans, bidding it, and then obviously the 20% of the construction costs. We would just kind of be that conduit in between the project and the DOT for the funding source.
So this we need to approve.
Correct.
So we would be approving the grant application. Tell me a little bit about the grant application and what it involves. And who's writing?
So CCOG, the Southeastern Council of Governments, they're the ones that will write it. The city would actually be the ones applying for it. It is only for infrastructure, so roads, they will not pay for utilities, so water and sewer, that's 100% on the developer.
Is this one of the new grants?
It's
From
been
COVID?
around for a while, but they've changed it. No, it hasn't.
It's not part of the old build grant, is it?
No, the build grant is a federal grant. This is South
No,
Dakota.
this is ceiling. Okay, who's in administer through?
The DOT.
DOT.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the grant application.
A motion and a second to approve the grant application on the Encore project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, good luck.
And just another tidbit of information on this project, we are talking with the developers about a TIF district, so that may be coming forward in the next 30 to 60 days as well.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Next item is to set the 2022 budget work session. We spoke briefly the other night about Monday the 12th, I believe.
Yep, it's budget time again, so Monday the 12th at 5:30 for a budget work session. First budget work session, we will go through revenues, and then we will invite in the organizations, the non-city organizations that we fund. So, for instance, the Development Foundation and the Chamber would be the only two. So
Are we gonna set the next one, or gonna wait, or?
we can wait. I'm thinking what I'd like to do is maybe go every other Monday.
When we don't have council.
When we don't have council, we'd have a budget work session.
And how many do you envision? 3, 4?
At least 4, probably. It usually takes a couple to get through the expenditure side. Fortunately, with the CIP plan, usually the largest debates take place on capital projects for the departments, but those are kind of laid out in the CIP plan, so it might be a little easier this year.
Might be able to get through them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
5:30.
5:30.
Okay. Moving on to the street report. Raleigh, anything that needs to be chatted through? Okay. Wage adjustment?
Brad Topp's anniversary date is the 18th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the wage adjustment for Brad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2022 proposed transit budget.
This is the draft budget that ROX has submitted or will be submitting to the state for grant funding for the transit system. Just a reminder, this is proposed only. It's usually trimmed at the state level. So right now, we're looking at providing 19,000, approximately a little over 19,000 in bus pass revenue and then 45,000 in general fund revenue. That's in anticipation of receiving those grant funds, 86,548 and 5311 funds, $1,100 in Title III, and then state funds of 16,000. So we submit it. The state usually trims them a little bit, their share. So any cost or reduction in state grants, we would need to offset with, typically we've done it with general fund dollars.
Do we know how many riders we've had?
We can get that information.
I guess that'd be a question also. Is it substantially used?
Yes, yes. The largest users are young families with kids, getting them to the preschools.
Preschool, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
I don't know what they do without it.
Yeah, it's significant.
Okay.
We'll average 1,800 riders a month, if not more, during the school year.
Anything we need to do there right now, Brian?
Yes, you need to approve the
Okay.
grant application.
Move to approve. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the transit budget request. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the bike pedestrian plan agreement.
Through the MPO, we received some federal funds to do this bike and pedestrian study. We're estimating that it's about $100,000 study. We'd pay 18 point something % of that study, so it's about $20,000 for us. If you remember, we sent out an RFP earlier this year. We had 3 consultants that were interested, and then the selection committee was made up of members of the DOT, their TAP grant selection committee, the, Federal Highway, Minnehaha County, the City of Sioux Falls, and then city staff. So there was a lot of people that looked at these proposals and made their recommendations. The recommendation was Yultag, and we hope that they can start here pretty soon and still get a lot of this wrapped up by the end of the year. But they would, for the most part, work through public participation through the park board. So we will probably be sending out notices or doing Facebook invites to the public for them to give their input on this study through park board, and then they will do a final report to city council at the end.
I know over on the east side, there's a lot of, well, I don't wanna say, there's a little bit of angst about the whole thing, positive. But personally, I would like to see some sort of a citizen group, committee, to be involved in it as well, as opposed to just relying on them showing up at the park board. And Vic, you know some of the people in that area, you know what I'm talking about a little bit. Any thoughts, or how do they plan to engage the public besides through the park board? Any other?
Well, they could contact me, and we could set something up and discuss it.
Is there any, in situations like this, is there any way that we could do something that because I do feel like it would be important, and not only on that side, but just anywhere, to get the input of the residents. We might think, oh, that's great, but when you live there and you see the community, and you might think of things that people, at one time, I know we came here before I was on council because there was thought to put it in the middle of a cul-de-sac, the easement for the bike path. And we felt strongly against that because I'm like, why would you put it there? It should be run where we thought it should go behind the houses. So I see what Jack's saying. I think if there's a way, I don't know if we can do an email or a select flyer just to that neighborhood or that area, just saying, if you have input, just to kind of, or even if it's something social media, just to kind of aware people, to try to get their input on what they have to say and how they feel would be utilized. I could see the benefit of.
Yeah, they've got
that.
outlined public stakeholder engagement that includes a project website. That people, and that's normal routine for engineering firms these days, or studies. Together, it's easier than stakeholders. You need to remember, this isn't just for the east side, this is for the entire community. So it's not just a matter of having a stakeholder group from the east side.
Yeah.
There's also the same concerns out in the bluffs as well. So this is a citywide thing, but they do outline public and stakeholder engagement, interviewing stakeholder focus groups, individual stakeholders questionnaires, virtual public engagement meetings, intercept events, and the creation of a project website hosted on the city's website. Stakeholder coordination, this task involves holding regular meetings with stakeholders, including virtual opportunities for information sharing and gathering feedback, and then review with city staff, study advisory team, which is the park committee, and then a virtual public input meeting. So
When we did the plan for Aspen Park, when the engineering firm did it, they had public meetings, then they met with various groups, so they'll meet with a lot more people than just park board.
Can we get past a virtual meeting with these folks and actually do it in a better setting?
that I don't.
This is virtual or hybrid in-person open house. So.
I really think community involvement, I think there's going to be a lot of people that will at least want to hear their voice, have their voice heard. And if just relying on a website, I think we can do better.
So, Tammy, when we did the Core and Rushmore both, they had a website, Facebook posts, they had public meetings for all of those projects, correct?
Correct.
So this would look something like that, where they do all of that information gathering?
It will.
And they're going to run it through Park Board?
Yes.
So there will be another opportunity besides just the open houses for people to come voice their opinions?
Yep.
Okay.
And couldn't we give them direction that we wanted the face-to-face as much as possible too? I mean, my guess is they added the virtual verbiage in case there's, pandemic flare-up or whatever. I mean, but wouldn't they be open to that direction?
Yeah. Yep, they're local.
If you read through the public and stakeholder engagement, to me, they are interviewing stakeholder focus groups, individual stakeholder. I mean, it looks like they're going to work hard to ensure that information is provided.
I think, some social media posts, if you have, where can they give some input, all those things would definitely be beneficial. I think overall, it's an exciting project for the entire city. So
We need to approve the 20% tonight? Okay, motion to approve.
second.
Motion to second to approve the funding for the study of the bike and pedestrian plan agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda is the grant funding agreement for Park Maple project.
If you remember last year, we joined forces with the City of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County, and we applied for the BUILD grant. That was a federal grant. We were unsuccessful. With the new Biden administration, that BUILD grant has turned to the RAISE grant. There's a few different requirements for the grant application, and so Minnehaha County does have a contract with HDR to put the application together. Our percent is only 11% of the total project, And I think,
5% of the grant writer's fee?
yes. I think that's 3,700.
3721.
Reasonable.
And then along with that is a letter of support from council to add in with the application.
Those are important. And any other local representatives or state or federal reps as well.
We did.
Yep, yeah, I think all three federal legislators are submitting letters of support.
Those go a long way.
Yep.
I would move to approve.
Both?
Second.
Both of them? Both the grant app and the,
Second, both.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve both the grant funding agreement and the grant letter of support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Quick question, Tammy, how long does it usually take? I mean, we just don't know, right? Brian's laughing, it's like a guessing game, huh? I just think that's really exciting if that road could go through, that's nice connectivity, right?
it's, you know, it's a competitive grant program, so that project is up against however many more other grants.
Yeah.
You know, I
How
think.
big a project was that? What's the dollar on it?
Oh,
16 million.
16?
and that's to pave the gravel portion of the road from the intermediate school all the way to 6 Mile Road. And then our portion would be the extension of Park from Sioux to, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. So, this would just be for design, this grant.
This is for
This for
design and
construction?
construction.
Okay.
Yep, this is everything with no match. We're asking for 100%.
My thing too is a question, if I remember correctly, doesn't the school also own land up there on Veterans Parkway? I'm just thinking with our citizens too, I mean, what a nice connect if they're, you know?
I don't
I
think
thought
so.
they had some future thing up there.
I don't think so.
Don't they have something up
They
there? I think
might.
they have future site, like down the road of something. I'm just
There
thinking,
was
with,
something up on North Veterans.
yeah, with our families, I'm just thinking that road would
They
be
might.
huge if we could get that through.
But, I mean, there's actually 4 entities involved. There's Split Rock Township as well that's involved, because it's technically a township road. You've got Minnehaha County, who's kind of driving this, and then us and Sioux Falls. So, I mean, you've got governmental cooperation between 4 entities, usually should get you a little bit of support.
That helps. So what percentage? Go ahead.
You said 6 Mile Road, or does this go all the way to?
Oh, it goes all the way to Veterans Parkway,
Okay.
sorry. As far as timing, I'm assuming that we'd hear something back on the grant application this fall, maybe.
Yep, this fall,
When's the deadline?
July 20th, something like that.
And then there's, if you remember, there's some significant changes in that road. So it's a very detailed project. You know, those roads are gonna be shaved out and the low areas are gonna be filled. There's quite a bit of property acquisition that would need to take place in negotiations with property owners. So it's gonna take a while, even after the grant is awarded, to get through design, property negotiations, and then bidding. So, environmental. So,
5 years.
yeah, 3 to 5, if all goes well.
Yeah.
That's great.
Would they,
It's all right though.
Great project.
Mm-hmm.
would they look at doing our section first, since there isn't any of that to do? Just say yes.
Honestly, I think our section's gonna be more development driven anyway.
Oh, or the,
Yeah, for,
Area over
in between Sioux and Split Rock, if a developer, and we've had some conversations with some developers who are interested in that, you know, that's probably gonna happen faster than the rest of it, if all goes well again.
One thing that this grant application does not include is the intersection of Park and Highway 11, because that would be more on the state responsibility, and they did not participate in the grant application.
that makes sense. So
And
we
they,
potentially could have a little exposure on that as well.
And they do plan to replace Highway 11, that's portion of it, in 2028. Yeah, so we're a ways out.
Okay, good. Move on to water and sewer, review of the water usage. Oh, didn't we? I thought we voted.
I'll, make motion to.
I'm sorry. Okay, I thought we voted. I'm sorry. We have a motion and a second to approve both the grant funding agreement and the letter of support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Water usage.
Water usage has dropped below the 1.6 for the required number of days, so we went to green every other, or even odd watering yesterday, Sunday.
Good job, city.
So hopefully, we'll stay under that 1.6. Yeah.
So,
I'm kind of thinking that we'll peak here for a while. Hopefully everybody will calm down a little bit. But you asked us to take a look at the water restrictions resolution. So we tweaked it a little bit. Green designation is our normal, designation these days. I think it will stay that way for the foreseeable future, even odd watering. The trigger would stay at 1.6 million, but we would expand that to 5 days instead of 3. And that would give us, especially over weekends, adequate time to notify. Talking with staff, I think what we'll do is if we hit 1.5 or above, we may send out some textily or some notices just saying, hey folks, we're pushing that 1.6. Just a reminder, please follow the even odd watering restrictions. We don't want to go to yellow again.
yeah, I had a number of comments. Yeah, it would have been nice to know in a day or two in advance, just so they can set their sprinklers.
Yep, and it happened over a weekend.
Yeah.
And so this will give us some more time to get that word out. And then to go from yellow back to green, we've reduced that from 10 days down to the 5 as well. So everything's kind of consistent, 5 days, 5 days. And then we took a look at the offenses. The first offense would stay the same with a written warning placed on the door. Second offense, we'd bump up from 100 to 150. Third offense would be up from 200 to 300, and then the fourth offense would be a shut-off instead of the fifth offense. So we're kind of shortening that cycle up, putting a little more oomph in it. So some of the water bills that folks are paying, the 150 is cheap, quite frankly.
I'm just kind of curious, what would be the process if you do have a water shut off for them to regain an opportunity to have their water turned back on?
Good question.
Well,
There should be some sort of process.
never.
No.
No, typically, I think it would be more a matter of them coming in, talking to us, turning paying the $50 turn back on fee, and just make sure that they fully understand the system.
And all their fines, right?
Yeah,
Pay all their
paying,
fines. That's
they're,
right.
actually, they're surcharges, they're not fines.
Okay.
This way that they will be placed on their water bill instead of going through the courts. So they're not fines, they're surcharges. But that's the way I envision it. I hope that we don't have somebody that gets to a fourth offense, but if it would, it'd be, let's call it counseling sessions with staff. Payment of any outstanding fees as well as any outstanding bill.
I like all of the changes that were mentioned, but I'm not a fan of the change in the times that somebody can water, because I think it's going to make it too complicated right now. And I have always thought 6 o'clock is too hot to be watering, so I can see why that is redlined in here, but I just think it's too much. I would like to revisit that if we can't get it under control as is. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's changed in here that you have to water at midnight to 10 a.m. and then, yeah.
It doesn't change the hours. It doesn't change the hours. It's just the verbiage. The city attorney thought this verbiage would be a little more clear.
Yeah, I didn't know what between 6 PM to 10 AM meant because, you know, you hit 2 different days on that. So I thought it was just made more sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so the hours are the same.
It is the same.
It's still
Okay.
no watering between 10 and 6.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then I'll make a motion to approve.
The only thing do we want to add 4th or more offense?
Yeah.
Because what happens if we shut off the water and then it's a 5th offense, 6th offense, a 7th offense? So I would propose that you add where it says 4th, put 4th or more offenses, that verbiage, and then we don't have to deal with it.
My motion to include that.
Makes sense. Motion and a second to, with the change on the 4th offense, to going forward to 5th. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I think that's well done and well said. Next on the agenda is a wage adjustment for Mark Schmilling.
Yep, his anniversary is on July 20th.
Motion and a second to approve the wage adjustment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. RO pilot study proposal.
As part of our water treatment plant design, we need to do an RO pilot study just to make sure the equipment is going to work with our source water. Ben is here from AE2S. If you have any questions on it, it would be an 8-week study. They would ship the equipment here. AE2S would come and do all the testing and write up a report at the end of it.
So I guess I'm just a little confused. I would anticipate that when we had the whole quote for the project, that the equipment would have been included in there. So is that standard that it's not?
Yeah, usually the agreements for any equipment rental go through the owner, not through us on that side. The full agreements, just to explain the cost and all, is what is included. As Tammy had said, they provide all the equipment, they provide the chemicals. They are also there during setup and startup. They'll have regular meetings. We're probably looking at weekly calls with them to review the data, explain the data if there's any oddities, or just explain what trends are going through it. They're responsible for the shipment to and from the site. Really, it's an all-encompassing rental agreement for that pilot equipment to test the design parameters on a small scale before the full scale is built, just to identify anything early on and also to verify your design parameters that your assumptions were made on for the large scale.
I feel like this is really backwards because we've already approved the water treatment plant expansion with the RO bid alternative, and now we're going back to a study to demonstrate that the water quality from the RO will meet or exceed our standards. I mean, shouldn't this have been done before we ever considered an RO bid alternative?
No, it's sometimes done early. I shouldn't say sometimes. It's done usually during the preliminary design period. Once you've decided to go with RO, then you want to verify those assumptions you made, and we work with the supplier. They make some really good projections based on the raw water quality. You know, and as reverse osmosis has been around longer and longer, they can project a lot closer. But we still want to verify there's no surprises with a fully installed system, just because of the cost of that system.
We haven't decided to go forward with RO. We've just decided to get a bid for an alternative. So what happens if this study shows a problem with compatibility? I mean, are we putting the RO part of the bid on hold until we see that it's compatible?
No, we don't expect to see a problem. It's more of if the design parameters can be either shifted tighter or loosened up a little bit, just in the called recovery percentages, verifying chemical dosages. So we're not expecting, and I don't know if we've ever seen a catastrophic, if you want to call it that, difference or issue with the water. It's more of verifying, being more confident, fine-tuned in all those assumptions that we're making in the design for the RO system.
I'm just gonna say, I feel very blindsided by this. I felt like when council approved this, we knew we spent the extra money to do the RO as an option. I didn't realize, and I'll admit, this isn't my world, I'm a teacher, but I wouldn't have known to say, okay, now is there any extra to get that bid that you said you would offer us, more money that's gonna cost our citizens and that we're gonna have to pay out? So that's where I feel like, I mean, 48,000, that's a lot of money. I mean, and we're spending taxpayer dollars on something that I thought was already built in the cost of the process to have it bid out. I mean, am I the only one that thought that? I thought we would get the RO option and we wouldn't have to spend any more money. That whatever equipment or whatever you had to obtain, that would have been done by you guys, or, I don't know, city administration. Were you aware that we're gonna get an extra almost 50 grand bill?
I was, and I should have made more of a point to point that out, because it was an AE2S's proposal that the equipment for the RO pilot study was not included in their estimate.
I mean, this is the first time we've heard of a pilot study. Correct?
When we did like the HMO, this is the same process as when we had the HMO to our water treatment plant. There was design, we did the pilot study, and then that's the equipment that was bid out.
But
so it is.
Project.
Yeah.
First time we've heard of this.
I mean, this is something I can speak in for myself here, but this is stuff that I would like to know. Like, I don't know every single question to ask, but this was, to me, this is a substantial lot of money. This is a lot more than I'm making a year. So for me, I'm like, this is huge, right? And this is taxpayer dollars that I already thought, I didn't think we'd have to spend. And if something that you knew was ahead of time, I would really have liked to said, hey, by the way, council, heads up, AE2S doesn't have the equipment. They're gonna come back and ask us for this rental money. Because I know a lot of us were even processing whether or not to do the RO and the bid to begin with, right, in the proposal. So I would just ask, and, especially in the future, I mean, that's something that it would have been nice to be more proactive and give us a heads up on that.
So if this is fine tuning the chemicals, and if I'm hearing it correctly, could this be tabled until, 'cause we haven't even decided that we're doing RO. We're just getting a bid alternative for RO. So is this something that could be tabled until we decide if we're actually moving forward?
We prefer to do it early on so that when we are doing the design, your chemical storages, your feed rates, everything are known, so you're not potentially undersizing anything, and also making sure recovery rates, it gets down to pipeline sizing, flow rates. The risk doing it later, being the biggest risk could be redesign of the system if things are undersized. That's worst case. We're trying to be conservative in our assumptions through the facility plan and currently in preliminary design here, to make sure we can reduce storage, reduce flows, rather than increase them, but without doing the pilot study, the pilot testing, that we just can't confirm that without that pilot test on that water.
Tammy, did you say that in the RFP or in the project proposal, there was reference to this pilot?
It was, because I did ask the question at the time of the proposal. And AE2S clearly stated it in their proposal that the RO equipment was not part of their proposal because they don't own the equipment.
Yeah, and I think I vaguely remember something being mentioned.
I think I might have mentioned it at a briefing meeting, but I did go back and watch the council meeting and I did not mention it there. And I apologize, I should have.
So I wasn't in this position when this was passed in March, and I'm sort of like Vicki, I have no clue what you're talking about, to be honest with you, in at least the process. I'm assuming that now, with our present treatment, we don't use the reverse osmosis system at all, or do we?
That's correct. No, you don't.
Okay.
The reverse osmosis would be a new
Something
treatment process added to soften the
And
water.
just
Yeah.
briefly looking at this, will it we're looking at possibly softer water, we're looking to make sure of quality of the drinking water, some of those types of things above what we may have had now?
Yep, that's the target of the reverse osmosis process is to soften the water.
And I'm assuming that this process is used somewhat extensively in other places?
Yeah, not always for softening, I'll say. Some of them are targeting other water quality parameters to be removed that membranes work better on than others. But the way the reverse osmosis membranes work, by removing all of the hardness out of the water, it works well to soften the water.
Sure.
Mayor, we're paying like upwards of $400,000 to get a bid alternative on top of the big package of the water treatment plant expansion, just to look at it. So that's why this 50,000 is like, we were kind of, some of us were hesitant before to spend that much money to just get a bid to help us make a decision to do it or not. So that's where it's a little perplexing.
I'll be honest, I'm not happy about this because we seem to got the cart ahead of the horse here. We already approved doing an alternative bid, and now you're coming back and telling us that we need to do an additional study so that you can finish your engineering work. That's not the way this works, in my opinion.
That's how we've typically done reverse osmosis designs, is with preliminary design, doing a study to verify.
Ahead of time, honestly.
And I apologize if I wasn't clear in it. We tried to be clear in how the agreement was written up and how it was explained in there. We are fully involved through the reverse osmosis pilot, collecting data, grabbing samples, reviewing data, summarizing in a report, and verifying against our design assumptions. So we have a huge part in running the RO pilot study and combining and summarize the data from that pilot study. It's just the equipment we don't own and we don't.
Would it not have been beneficial to have the study done ahead of doing your design standards? Because now, what if the study comes back and, oh, hey, we really need to take a look at something else here. We got to go back and redesign a portion of this project. What's that going to cost us?
That's why we're trying to do it early in the design here, so we
Well,
avoid.
it should be done before we approved any alternative bid. This should have been done before, period.
It could have been. That could have been a step added after the facility plan and before design. I guess it just wasn't looked at in that order.
Obviously, and I agree, Jack, it should have been discussed back in March. It's very fair, but it's not, and at this point.
Blindsided us without.
It is.
Tammy, I would ask you, was this included in the agreement that we approved? The equipment, no.
Well, I mean, we can take a little bit of ownership of that ourselves, you know, if we approve something that,
Didn't have a price tag.
in our, you know, in our notes or whatever, but we didn't have any price tag on it, so.
The equipment was not in there.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so.
I'd like to also add
of the-
that we're trying to fast track this design a little bit too, so that we can get this bid on time. So doing this at the same time as the design is almost needed. Because it is an 8-week study, so it would put us another 2 months behind, so then we wouldn't be able to bid it in the spring, which means we'd probably wait a whole nother year to bid it and get good
But
prices.
if we'd approved this back in March, we'd have been through the 8 weeks, the study would have been done, they could have been
I don't think we were making decisions in March on if we were doing RO or not.
Decided to do the alternative bid.
Then March.
Well, I'm going to be a no just because I think this whole process is backwards. And I think that we should be making the decision before we pay for our design, before we pay for a study. I mean, I just think that this is a lot of money to spend either way for a study to make it more fine-tuned with the chemicals and the bid alternative for something we may or may not do. I think we're making decisions in the wrong order.
Well, we're already 2 years behind because of the whole water controversy, and I really can't see us pushing this off another year with the way our citizens feel about our watering restrictions. So I'm not particularly pleased with this, but I'm going to say that I would make a motion to do it because we got to get moving. And you know, what's it going to do to fuss about it? I mean, we got to do it.
I think this also gives us a better idea of what RO is going to be able to do with our water and help us make that decision once we get to the point where we have to make a decision on do we go ahead with RO or do we not go ahead. We're going to have some data points, I think, to talk about and be able to give to our citizens. Is any of this water that goes through here going to be taste tested also? Because that's one of the complaints that we get a lot of times is the water. A lot of people think our water doesn't taste good.
It sure can be. We can take the permeate from the pilot study, blend it with with filtered water, 50/50, like it will be in the full scale, and it will be drinkable water, yeah.
So I you know, I can understand some of the hesitancy on the cost, but at the same time, I think it was probably in those documents. There was a lot of stuff, those pages, and I'll be honest, I didn't read every word and totally understand that. I do remember a comment about about this RO test project, and I think it's a prudent thing to do, like it's been pointed out, that this is going to give them information and data on the actual design that they're going to be doing. And I think the study would have had to been done. We would have had to pay for it regardless if it was done before or after, right?
Yeah, correct. We need the same equipment
You know,
either way.
so the cost is there. We're talking about how much is this total project? 20?
The engineering cost is 1.53 or 1.5 million.
Is that
For engineering.
without the alternative?
Pardon? That's with.
That's with.
Yep.
So you made a motion, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the study.
And there's no way we can compromise or split the cost or do something? Is that never done?
Not really.
And then, so where does this money come from? Again, I just look at trying to be, you know,
Comes out of the water fund. It was part of the engineering
so then
design
that
for
means the rates are higher for our citizens and then
No.
we take,
This $50,000 will not have any impact on the rates.
So, a few comments. I understand totally why the study needs to be done. I understand the cost of it, okay? And I don't have a issue either way. What I do have a problem with is being handcuffed here and not having a say. Because I feel like we're handcuffed, we have to approve this so that you can do your engineering study. Okay, your engineering, and with the correct data. I don't like being held over a barrel like this. I'll likely vote to approve, but I just really think you or staff failed us. I'm being very, very frank, and that's my personal opinion. Obviously, we need to, in my opinion, we need to move forward with the study. Those are just my comments.
I'm just going to remind council that we did ask for public input on this, and we had over 1,000 votes, and it was overwhelming on the side of no RO. So when you make this vote for this bid alternative price to increase, you're going against what the public provided us with feedback.
Yeah, but that was not a scientific study, and our biggest complaint about our water is how hard it is. And so that's why I voted to look at the RO process, because we get complaints about it all the time. And I don't know that you can quote a survey with with that, I don't agree with that.
So
I call the question.
Okay. Question has been called on the motion and second. Is this a roll call?
On this, Mayor. Clark? David?
Nay.
That's a no, right? Fish?
Aye.
Jorgensen?
Aye.
Cole?
Aye.
Parliament?
Aye. Reluctantly.
Motion passes, Mayor.
Motion carries. Okay, speaking of water, the water tower logo.
We are under construction of our 1.25 million gallon composite water tower on the east side of town. It's pretty close to Interstate. I threw up there 2 different logos. We have the Brandon with the sun on it, which is on our current water tower. I would recommend that we go with the Brandon logo with the water drop on it instead of the sun. We use this at Water Conservation, and having the logo all one color works a lot better than having those 2 different colors. If you look at our existing water tower, it's sometimes hard to see the yellow of that sun. Makes it a little bit easier to paint it on there as well. I would recommend that we take off the water smarter. Just trying to keep the logo simple, and having one line is always easier to read.
I like that one. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Take the water smarter off. Then it's almost like a, hey, Brandon, water smarter. No, that's not the message.
You also have to remember it's going to be viewed from the interstate at 80
Yeah.
plus miles an hour.
Brandon water. Cool.
We spent Brandon on it, right? Not
Yep.
with water. With
Right.
water.
Brandon
Right.
with water.
Oh, yeah, the water, with Brandon.
I like it.
And then in the original plans that we bid out, we only had it in there at 8 foot tall. This tower is 169 feet tall. The shell of it, where the logo would go on, is 79 feet tall, or 26 feet tall. It's 79 feet in diameter. So I would recommend that we make the B on Brandon 16 feet tall, and then everything else kind of just falls in place. Our contractor recommended going up to that 17 or 18 feet tall, but that water drop is just a little bit taller on the bottom there.
The scale that we have on page, was it 152?
That's the 8 foot.
That's at 8 foot?
So if we drop water smarter and make it about twice as large.
What's it do with the price?
That's one thing we don't know yet. So when we bid these this water tower, we bid it all as a lump sum item. So everything for the tower is under one cost. We did ask the contractor, and they'll get us those prices, so I'll have a change order for that. So if we want to go this way, then we can talk to the contractor, come up with some prices, and then we would present it again. That way, if it's a large cost, we can go back to the drawing board and do something different.
I think that's a good idea. I like it.
I like the Brandon with the water drop.
Yeah.
I think that's,
We have to approve it, or we need to tell you?
Just tell me. And then if we place 2 of them, kind of one on the east side and one on the west side, so that you can view it from Interstate. I don't know how visible that's going to be from town. So if you're standing at the high school, you might not be able to see the logo on the water tower.
what you're saying at the new school and the housing area there.
Maybe not. I mean, that's, if
That
we
would
got
be
them
on
on
the
the east
side.
and the west, that new housing developments, you might be able to see part of it. I don't think you'll see the whole.
Yeah, they'll have to kind of get maybe creative on the angle there. Obviously, we want the interstate, but we're only gonna get one direction on the interstate too.
Yeah,
probably.
could you angle it for the westbound traffic?
Seriously. Yeah, actually, that's a good idea, Dave, because westbound traffic is
As
gonna.
you're coming into the state, and look up, and there's,
And that would be more
straight
visible.
to the side, you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Then the other one would look more towards the southeast, more towards town.
Yeah, because they'd be past our exit to come up anyways,
Right.
but coming from the
That's a
west.
good idea.
They can
Anything more we need to do with that? That was just for discussion. Moving on to new business, we have the sales tax analysis.
Sales tax remains strong, even compared to last year. So, the state has developed a new report for, that includes, or breaks out the internet sales. Don't have anything compared to right at the moment. It's a brand new report. I think they've done it for the last 6 months. Not even that. Is it 9 months? So we can't really go back and compare year to year yet. But they are starting to break that down. It looks like there's been fairly significant growth in online sales in town, which isn't a surprise.
No.
So remains strong. Third penny sales tax is rebounding from last year. We're at 121,000. So it should be pretty comparable to 2019.
Like I said, keep drinking, people. But not drive, just drink it.
Christina, how's this project out for your projections for the year?
Well, budget, I think we only budgeted 3.2, so I mean, it'll be well above budget.
Assuming it holds, yeah.
Yep. If everything holds, if everything continues.
What are we running at right now then?
You gotta be
6 months is 1.8.
on pace to,
6
on pace
months?
to do 3,
It will be 3.6.
3.6,
Or
3.7.
better, 3.7.
Yep.
I have something, I don't know, if new business or asking the council if they, is this one I can say that, Brian? I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, I know we talked about this a while ago, Tammy. Oh, sorry. I know we talked about this a while, and I don't know if there's any interest with the council, or maybe, remember we talked about with the core, I know it's gonna be a few years out to get to the rest of it, but just driving, I mean, those roads are really bad, obviously, and doing kind of like we were doing to Aspen, if we could do something, and like, is that still something the council's interested? I don't know what the cost is, but, I think, didn't we talk about, we send a letter to them saying, hey, we're gonna get to you, but it's gonna, realistically, what, another 5, 7 years, 10, I don't know. But at least, I mean, those roads are really, really bad. Is that what something, okay. And the other one, can you do one more? Robert Bennis, that little stretch in front of Robert Bennis is horrible. Is there anything that we could do, that little curvy section like that? I just feel bad for those parents drop off.
We can take a look at it. Tammy's been working on getting quotes or cost estimates to overlay starting on 4th this year. And then we'll be taking a look at overlaying 5th and 6th next year.
Okay. And then
And then 7th would be the following year.
What about the cross streets? Cedar?
Yep. We'll pick those up as we do those streets.
And then still send, I like the idea of sending a letter saying, hey, we know this is a temporary fix, but at least you have smoother roads. The real,
Yep.
because I don't want them to think that, oh, no, this is all we're doing to you guys. No, we're
No, so
gonna.
Tammy's working on
Okay, good.
getting some
Thanks.
cost estimates. We'll probably have that in front of you in the next 30 days, I would imagine.
So Tammy.
Hopefully the next council meeting.
Take an assumption that you go from, 4th, Aspen to Holly, and catch, 1 or 2 cross streets for a block. Ballpark.
For a 2-inch overlay, doing a little bit of milling at the intersections, very minimal repair work. We're looking at about 80 to 100,000. I have talked to a couple contractors. I do have a couple quotes.
So.
Just trying to get some of these other projects started first.
Going on the high side, even, it's $100,000 per street,
It is.
ballpark.
Yep.
Half a mil, well, it might be a little more. Well, do we need to do 4 all the way through 8, or is it, get by a little less than that, probably?
As far as 8?
You do 7th for sure.
7th for sure. 8th,
8th.
we'll see in 3 or 4 years when we get there.
Even, I don't know.
A little bit of Robert Bennis. It's been driving that every day. It's been horrible. A little bit of Robert Bennis.
If we did something like that, would that come out of our street fund then?
Yeah. So that's one thing that we'll talk about Monday. Thank you. That's one thing we'll talk about Monday night is, if we're gonna do that, we need to bump up our street maintenance fee.
And then that portion of Sioux is on my radar. We are gonna do slurry seal here in a couple weeks. We've been kind of in discussions about what to do with that street. I'm trying to find somebody to do a short mill and overlay, but I haven't been very successful on that.
Yeah, because really, you don't have, I mean, it's just basically from the stoplight, maybe right to mid-curve, right? Like, it's not even, it's just that, it just gets.
But we hate to spend too much money on it too if we're gonna get a RISE grant and then remove it anyway, so,
But how long would that be though?
yeah,
Yeah,
it could
that's
be
the
a long
thing.
time.
If it gives us 2-3 years for a little smoother roads, then I think it's, you know, because we probably won't be able to do that RISE grant anyways, right? Maybe? Okay. That's just all I had.
Any other new business, Brian?
Well, I just laid out the municipal league conference scheduled for Spearfish, October 5th through the 8th. So if anybody's interested in attending, please let us know as soon as possible so that we can reserve hotel rooms.
October 5 to 8?
Yep, yeah, it's right after the October council meeting. Tuesday through Friday.
When will we have an agenda?
You got it here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I handed it out, it's paper copy.
Okay.
It's also in your league magazine this month.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got that today.
Has anyone attended it from the council?
Jim always goes, but I don't know.
Informative?
I go to the city attorney for.
Yeah, I think we usually.
Yeah, you can pick and choose your tracks that you want to go to. Just because it says it's the South Dakota Building Officials Association on Thursday morning, you can go to that if you want to, depending on, each association doesn't have their agenda out yet. But as they come in, we'll certainly share them with you if you're interested in going to something.
I'm going to the budgeting one tomorrow if anybody wants to go to that.
Is that the library? Oh, that's different. I'm
Honestly,
going to something else.
Might be interested.
Yeah.
Let us know soon, because, we'll try to get everybody in the Holiday Inn if we can.
Why don't you make a reservation for me and, you can always cancel.
Yeah, it's at the Holiday Inn for the Ramcota, which is right on the interstate north side.
Yep. Okay.
Is there a need for executive session? If not, motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
No, Mayor, do you go Friday?
No, I had it already, but I'm
did?
still
And you're
struggling.
still
I'm still struggling. I've
Yeah.
been over
I thought
today.
maybe it was this Friday, and I'm like, oh, it can't come soon enough.
No.